I'm not even sure where to start because I'm so frustrated about this. This is going to be a very long post because I'm still trying to wrap my head around all of this, and I'm really hurt by this person's behavior. I, 46 female, work as a receptionist in a clinic. I love my job and I've been here for 11 years. My first co-worker started 2 weeks after me. She was freaking awesome, and she and I worked together until last year when her memory was starting to fail her, and she retired. Enter the second co-worker. She was a very sweet, kind person who was good at her job but couldn't keep up. The stress of the job got to her, and she ended up walking out one day and not coming back. Enter current co-worker, 29 female. At first, I really liked her. She was a breath of fresh air. She is very, very good at her job, a fast learner, and she truly cares for our patients and her work. My first co-worker and I learned everything about the job on the fly, and learned how to do things as they came up. This was the case with my second co-worker, and she was fine with it, didn't have a problem with my teaching style. I'm not a good teacher verbally, so I'll type things up as I think of them, and then give them to the person I'm training. My current co-worker says that she can't learn that way, so she would constantly ask me to show her step-by-step how to do things. My thoughts tend to be very jumbled as I have ADD, anxiety, and have struggled with some learning difficulties. I get sidetracked very easily too, more so when it's stupid busy at work and we have patients waiting and the pressure is on. It is really hard for me to verbally explain things even as I'm doing them. I'll forget steps or I'll explain them in the wrong order and then have to start all over again. My current co-worker has gotten very frustrated with me about this, which I understand. But she makes me feel very stupid by insulting me, saying that I'm a horrible teacher and she's not able to learn anything about the job from me. When she acts like that, I just emotionally shut down and stop. She was very friendly to me at first, and we'd sit and chat between patients and phone calls. Suddenly, one day in February, she completely stopped talking to me and gave me the cold shoulder. I asked what was wrong, and she said that she was just tired and didn't want to talk. Okay, fine. I let her be for the day. After almost a month of this, and her acting like my very presence there and everything I did was pissing her off, I told her that I must have done something awful to her and wanted to know what it was. She refused to tell me. She'd talk to all of my other co-workers about every little thing, and she'd scowl at me every time I said good morning, have a good evening, or any time I'd say something to her. I'd try to teach her how to do something that would come up during the day, and she'd sit in silence and give me a dirty look. And then when I'd get flustered, she'd get angry and start slamming things around on her desk and sighing. Welp, time to talk to my boss because it was getting to be a hostile environment to be in, and I was miserable. We had a meeting, and she tried to say that I had been snapping on patients and not answering the phone the way that she wanted me to, and that I was refusing to teach her anything. I do have a tendency when there's multiple phone calls to answer and tell them to hold instead of asking them to so I can go back to the first call or to the patient standing in front of me and help them. It's a very fast-paced job and it gets stressful. My boss asked her what she wanted to learn and she told him, and her told me to type something up for her to refer to. I told him that I had, and she told him she can't learn that way. Then, he told her that she'd just have to start doing it and ask me questions when she got stuck. I told her I'd try to be better with the phones. Fast forward a month. She's acting pissed off at me again. Another meeting. Now, she tells my boss that every time she asks me a question, it's too busy for me to answer her exactly that minute, and that I was being snippy with her. I wasn't. I had paid attention to my tone of voice, and I was very busy. I'd tell her that I'd be with her in a minute after helping the patient in front of me first. Well, she didn't like that one bit. She also said that I was prioritizing paperwork over helping the patients, and me asking the patient to hold on for a minute while I'd finish scanning a document and putting it into the electronic health record we use was just horrible treatment. And that patient shouldn't even have to wait 5 seconds for me to help them. I thought that was ridiculous, but whatever. I told her and my boss that I'd do the paperwork between patients and be more attentive. Fast forward another month and she's acting pissed again. Another meeting. Now she's saying that me doing my paperwork between patients isn't good enough, that I'm ignoring patients and the phones altogether. Not true, or I'd get complaints from them to my boss, as he's also the doctor who sees them, and making her do all the work, and now she can't get her paperwork done. So then my boss had to give both of us certain times of day where we're allowed to do paperwork while the other person covers the desk. Okay, fine. Fast forward a week. I think things are going fine. One time, over the lunch hour, my co-worker was on her break. I had just checked a patient in for their appointment, and there was literally nothing else to do. So I uploaded their signed documents into their chart just to have something to do. There were no phone calls. There were no other patients checking in or out. I thought it would be fine. Lo and behold, my co-worker found the documents in the patient's chart with the timestamp of when she'd been on break. She laid into me very loudly with the patient standing there waiting to check in, saying that she had been more than patient with me in the past. Yeah, sure, Jan, whatever you say. About things, and that her patience had finally run out with me. She told me that I was worse than her 8-year-old daughter with her having to tell me what to do. Since when did she become my boss? And that I was making it so she didn't want to come to work. It was the day after the 1-year anniversary that my mum had died, and I wasn't doing well emotionally, and just wanted to keep myself busy, and I tried to tell her that. She said that she was fed up with my excuses and acting like a victim all the time, and then turned around and was nicey nice with all of my co-workers and gave me hostile looks if I even dared to look her way. I almost walked out. I told myself to let it go in one ear and out the other, that she was just being a bitch and to ignore her. For the following 3 weeks, she would make sure I was in earshot when she'd be talking to my other co-workers about how much I suck at my job, that I wasn't doing my job, that I was irritating as a person, and that she couldn't stand being in my presence. She did this over and over, at least 6 or 7 times a day, making sure I could hear her talking about me while I was just sitting there getting more and more pissed off. Of course, I wasn't going to lay into her in front of the patients and co-workers because, that's extremely unprofessional, and I didn't want to give her more ammunition to use against me. I talked to my boss on Monday when it became unbearable. I told him that I was on the verge of walking out for the day and leaving her by herself with the 100 patients that were on the schedule. I broke down crying. I do that when I'm beyond pissed. And told him that although I enjoy working for him, he's a wonderful person and a great boss, I was starting to hate being at work. I felt like throwing up every single day, that it was a hostile environment, and that she was trying to turn all of my co-workers against me. He told me that we would have another meeting, and that he wasn't going to give her any more chances after that day. We had the meeting yesterday, and I told him everything she had said and done while she was sitting there with a stony look on her face the entire time. He asked her if this was true, and she admitted to saying those things, but then she said that she hadn't been gossiping. He told her that he had talked to my co-workers, and that they backed me up and said the exact same things I told him. Then, she admitted it, and she said the reason she did it and was being so hostile to me was because I was constantly pissing her off. And then she had the audacity to say that I was creating a hostile work environment because I was doing a lot of things on purpose just to screw with her. I was shocked. All I could do was look at my boss with my jaw practically on the floor and shake my head. He asked her what things I was purposefully doing to her. She said that I was always putting the remnants of the patient charts I was scanning into her waste paper basket. Mind you, this waste paper basket was right next to our printer, and it was for everyone to use. She said I was filling it to the brim with chart husks. All personal info was removed and shredded prior to doing that. Every single day. My boss looked at it and there was nothing in there. I showed him the plastic bag I was using to put the chart husks into. She also said that I was still prioritizing paperwork over patients and phone calls, and that I wasn't doing my job, and that was why she'd been venting to others for me to hear it. My boss gave her this look and asked her to give him examples of how I wasn't doing my job, and that if he heard that she was talking crap about me in the workplace again, he'd have to let her go. She started crying then, but couldn't tell him why she thought I wasn't doing my job. She said that I was just creating a hostile work environment by doing little things to piss her off, like the waste bin, and moving a box an inch so I'd be able to reach it better to toss records into it for shredding, and creating my own file folder to keep my scanned documents in to keep myself better organized. And then she says that I had purposefully slowed down doing my paperwork during my hour slot, so I would take up the whole hour doing paperwork, so I wouldn't have to help the patients. My boss told her that my hour was my hour to get things done. She said that I had been going fast before, but now I was purposefully using my whole hour to do it. I told him that it wasn't true, that I would scan my documents from the day in, do them, and then scan patient charts to upload until the EHR because I was falling behind with that since I wasn't allowed to do anything until my allotted hour, no matter if there was nothing else to do. We had an incident in March where a bunch of scanned files had disappeared and weren't able to be recovered, and there were over 100 charts unaccounted for. Therefore, I'll scan 5 to 10 charts at a time and then upload them into the patient's charts, then scan 5 to 10 more and so on. It's kind of a long process, and I don't want to risk losing a bunch of files like we did. I explained that, and she said, "See? All she has are excuses for not doing her job." My boss shut her down fast with that, and said that as long as I have files to scan, I'm allowed to use my entire hour to do as much as I can to get done. She's trying to paint me as the vindictive one, and my boss knows me and isn't buying into her BS. Even the crying she was doing to try and get him to feel sorry for her didn't fly. She also tried to tell him that she says good things about me all the time to everyone, that I'm a wonderful person, that I'm a good, hard worker, and that I'm good at my job, when she had just admitted that she had been telling everyone that I wasn't doing my job and that I didn't know how to do things properly. I admit that my response was a bit immature when I said, "Oh, really? That's news to me." Then she started ranting about how I'm not a good person, that she hates me, and telling me not to talk to her because we is not friends, and we will never be friends because of your crappy attitude and creating a hostile place to work. My boss had a shocked look on his face at all the contradictions and hate coming from her. I said, "Gladly." She started crying again, and then my boss said that the meeting was over, so we could all decompress. "I'm sorry this was so long, I really needed to vent." Today, when she came into work, I was surprised that she came in because in the past, every time she got pissed at me, she'd go home claiming she was ill and would call out ill the next day and constantly come in a half hour to an hour late for the next week. She kept on giving me pissed off looks and would completely ignore me if I tried to tell her anything that was job-related. I finally told her that because I had stayed 4 hours after my shift yesterday, that I'd be leaving early today and tomorrow because our boss tells us to try not to rack up a bunch of overtime. She just rolled her eyes at me and said, "Whatever, you don't have to ask my permission." I said, "I don't need your permission. I'm merely stating a fact." I was just doing her the courtesy of letting her know instead of just leaving for the day. She rolled her eyes again and then turned around and talked with my coworker. Oh, and right in the middle of my hour of doing paperwork, she got up and took her 15-minute break, lol. I stayed until my paperwork was done, which was a half hour later, and told her that I was leaving even earlier tomorrow. I don't see her lasting much longer. I hope she'll last until after July, because I'm taking some of my vacation time then, and I'll be pissed if she ruins things for me and my husband. I think I may be coming down with bullshititis, so I may have to call out sick on Friday, which is usually her day to leave early. I'm not that type of person to do that to someone, but my patience has also run out, and she did say that I was being vindictive by doing things to piss her off on purpose.